Yo guys, I'm Yellow, and today I figured that we should make another video, thus completing my New Year's resolution. Now, if you're wondering what is happening with my YouTube channel, you can take a listen to the previous video, but this one will also explain some of the underlying type of developments that has happened to me in the last couple of, probably a month plus or so, but that is not really too important. The point here is that I want to talk about self-mastery. Now, I'm not like a psychologist or whatnot. I'm just a layman, but I've gone through, it pretty much feels like I've gone through the entire journey, which, yeah, I'm not sure how normal that is or whatever the hell, but you end up becoming way more of a developed person if you're able to. And I gotta say, it has probably been over a 10-year long journey, but the last 5 years have been the most, I guess you could say, progress heavy, and the last month have been absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, again, I'm a layman. You should probably, if you're super interested in this sort of stuff, speak to some sort of professional. But again, this is going to be my perspective, and reading about it and seeing what had happened to myself, it really, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it because it's that crazy and interesting, and it can be that healthy and useful for people. So I want to angle it through self-mastery. That's what our general goal will be. If you want to reach something in life, or you want to experience more of what you enjoy, or maybe you have some things that you want to fix that are not up to snuff about yourself primarily, because you can't really control or affect anybody else in general, then this will be super important. It's primarily about, in psychology, the shadow of your mind. I like to think of it as like, there's going to be you. So in my case, it's yellow, and then you have the shadow edition of yellow. And that might sound corny as hell, but in psychology, it does make a lot of sense the more you learn about yourself. So, for example, do you have some sort of, or did you used to have some sort of bad trait? Some things that you did, maybe you lacked like motivation in general, maybe you had no discipline whatsoever, maybe you have some sort of issue with focusing, or maybe you procrastinate way too much, maybe you have some sort of different habit that is bad. Your shadow can inhabit a lot of different aspects. But again, remember that it's very human to have, and it's completely natural, and you should not feel bad about having them because most people have just different types of them, but most have it. So, how I got into the topic, by the way, I want to cover quickly. In my past relationship, I wanted to take it deadly seriously because I don't like to half-ass things. I like that things are nice in general because, I mean, the more crazy things you experience, the more nice you want things to be, of course, right? I guess it's a natural evolution of people going through life in different ways. So I started to read up on psychology. I read up on like the shadow and dark triad traits and whatnot, and I learned a lot about things. But I also learned a couple of things about myself. And yeah, I know that I've indirectly in the past done things to myself, mentally speaking, that have improved myself, but I had no idea how that, just reading about it for a different person, it gave me so many ideas, and it allowed me to have so much more depth and insight into my own psyche and how my own negative traits, my shadow traits, were actually affecting me. And so it gave me the hugest, biggest, best boost and per se a key towards getting into it and actually fixing up stuff. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. So what I also want to cover here is that to me, it all ended with I have to try and agree with myself. If I can't agree with myself, every aspect of myself, I can't agree with it, I can't accept it, I can't actually come to terms with what it is, then yeah, I never really felt like I was finished or complete, if that makes any sense. And so getting to that point actually just, yeah, it kind of activated me again. And so now suddenly I feel like I'm myself again to a way larger extent than what I've ever been before. And I feel like I can make videos, which is absolutely crazy. But here we are, absolutely nuts. So yeah, it's really boiling down to just resolving your own flaws. But I need to give a serious warning before we dive into the most nitty-gritty type of stuff. There's like a lot of extra information around this sort of stuff because it's like, it's psychology. Psychology is pretty weird, okay? There's no like, just do this and it's fixed. Impossible. But a serious warning. You need to take the flaws seriously, but you also need to respect that everybody are supposed to have them. It's a very human thing to have, but you need to take the process also seriously, because if you do not complete it, it might actually leave you at a worse condition mentally than what you were initially, because people have a tendency to talk bad about themselves in their mind. be negative, maybe only focusing on the flaws, feeling pity about themselves, and all these sort of negative things. And I know it's very human to also have those reactions, and I've done it myself, I know as well. But fact of the matter is that you need to kind of accept that things are going to happen past your control, and it's easier said than done. And there are many ways to actually work through it. I'll get to that deeper in the video, but you need to just accept that these things need to be taken very seriously, and you need to work towards completing them. If you can't, it will maybe to some degree be damaging also to take it on, unless you have a professional helping you. Again, I'm not a professional. I just want to give it like a heads over look type of thing of the entire ordeal. So yeah, the shadow is very much linked to your dark triad traits to some degree, but primarily it's kind of its own aspect that will entail a lot of things. It's a part of being human. If you want to work on yourself in this realm, you need to have a lot of self-insight. Without it, you're going to struggle a little bit, or way more than not, because looking into yourself and looking at your own flaws, it doesn't feel good. It can be very painful to some people, even myself obviously as well. But in the end of the day, if you can do it, you can also understand what is actually happening and what changes probably need to be made, which is one of the more crucial things that we want to reach into with every single small thing or aspect that you have. So yeah. By the way, there are a few good sides within the shadow type of mentality within a person, but primarily there are going to be more negative ones. That is at least how it's categorized, and it does make a lot of sense. That's like the tendency. So, as far as I can discern, there are 3 ways in which you can work through every single issue and problem. And the end result to me was always that, and I actually said this very early to myself, like about 5 years ago. I said like, okay, so I guess if I have a shadow part of myself, like a negative side, I figured out like we just need to get things done, and we need to move forward. And like it's impossible for me to give up anyways, but I need to make sure that I agree with myself. And so, with that being my end goal for the entire thing, here are like 3 general ways in which you can work through problems, and I'll bring up some examples to flush them out properly. So, if you have an issue with yourself, you can sometimes be able to do a complete transformation. And this is incredibly difficult. It's like making an ultimate choice, and you, like a nature law, change something within yourself. The one time I did this that I can truly remember, aside from like just being a moral good person in general, which I've always tried to be, and as far as I can tell, I'm probably to some degree, at least yeah. Anyways, so when I was like 8 or 10 years old, I had crippling anxiety regarding things that might seem like I would get some punishment because of it. Like seriously, absolutely crippling. So it was primarily about homework, but eventually I was able to sit down and think like just think through the issue, and like, why is this happening? What will happen? And I was able to calm myself, center myself again, and take complete control over that emotion. And I know that many people are going to struggle with serious anxiety, but that was kind of like, I guess, my first blessing in my life. It happened very early. I will always remember it. I remember the room, how it looked, how it felt. It was absolutely, like, yeah, mind-altering. But that really enabled me to live way more normally, I realize, in retrospect, which is pretty good. Now, not everybody will be able to do that sort of stuff, but if you ever have that sort of power, you need to try and use it properly, and use it only when it's, like, supposed to be used in that sort of way. But again, I don't think it's too normal. And some smaller issues can probably be fixed in the same way. But that was like a very heavy one that I was able to iron out, luckily, early. So that's like number 1, the general method of doing something, like fixing a negative trait. But again, it demands figuring out the entire thing from start to finish, recognizing it, understanding it, respecting it, and not blaming yourself for it. And then trying to reach for a better solution. So the second way in which I see that people in general can like get these sorts of things fixed with themselves will be like a partial long transformation or solution. This will be with problems you have that are maybe like more heavy or difficult. Heavy is actually a pun intended, because let's say that you eat way too much food. To transition slowly but surely towards a better and better and better diet, that has worked out for me as well, even though I never really got fat, but I maybe got a little bit too wide, to be honest. But just trying to always eat more healthy foods, different foods that I enjoy, slowly but surely I was able to phase out most of my interest for candy and sugary type of things entirely. Now I even avert it in sodas and that sort of stuff as well, unless I am forced to. But you can probably get the general point here, and that is that the issue of not enjoying sweets, it's way too human to enjoy sugar, sadly, and it's very, very damaging. But being able to craft a path around it and slowly building upon it so that it becomes the new main road, that really did work. And yeah, it's gonna happen with a lot of things. You can this probably applies to a lot of emotional, situational things people have going on for themselves. Again, remember that it's gonna be a long process, but if you can complete it, you will be a changed person. I'm very, very sure. I do believe in you people. I do. But yeah, it will also go within like disciplines, learning things, having better attention span or focus, respecting certain things in your life. Like, sky's the limit for what that can be applied to, but it sure as hell does work. But again, the process must be completed. If it's not, and it's going to be a long one, then you really got to respect also then that you aren't taking the journey yet. But most people should eventually. So then, the hardest issues, they are going to demand probably a workaround, because they work almost like a nature law within your mind and being and body and all that sort of stuff. So let's say that you're crippling addicted to food, or maybe you are always very angry when you get hangry. Yeah. If those are the situations, then you need to figure out like how can I manipulate it or build around the issue. So for people who get angry, you just need to eat something and make sure that you always do that, or else you will, yeah, of course, get angry and it will be unpleasant for people around you. So respecting it and working around it, that will probably fix the issue. And eventually you can polish the way in which you do it so that you can create shortcuts and whatnot, and suddenly it's actually a very, very simple thing. It might actually, for other people, disappear completely and it will be invisible. Now, for people who are maybe, let's say, addicted to food, it's obviously going to be different. I'm not a dietitianist, if that's what it's called. Yeah, you get the point. Like, food doctor. Like, yeah, I'm not one of those, but you can probably understand that, like, there's going to be probably an addiction component here. You need to figure out some sort of way in which you can alter it. And to many people, doing more harsh treatment methods is probably going to be a better path in that direction. But yeah, if you're somehow are able to overcome it, at least always seek the better solution, because that is going to be the thing that will improve you as a human being. Again, accept your flaw. We're all flawed. There's no shame in that. You don't need to punch yourself down. And if it's something severe, you should by far not push yourself down even more, or punch yourself down, mentally speaking, even more down. Like, there's no point in that. That's counterproductive. Instead, you should try and respect that, like, this is how it really is to be a person and a human being. And you want to probably deal with it. And by doing that, you need to relax, take a deep breath, and try and take one component of the issue or one part of the things that don't really work out for you, and just iron that out and work that out at a time. So see what more is there on the list here, because I have like a general manuscript now. We are leveling up, people. Yeah, always understand that there will be most likely always a better option. It will be almost always a more superior option that you can figure out versus what you already knew or did or whatever. So you can do some things either more efficient than what you did, or if you are horrible at something, you can almost always fix it or make some sort of shortcut or like a solution that you didn't have. You need to always seek that out. A good way to explain that sort of stuff for me is that when I was looking for jobs and whatnot way back, I made sure that I looked at all of the things I enjoyed, all of the jobs I wanted to test out. And when I was done, I figured out what I wanted to do more than not, because I had already ruled out all of the things that didn't work. So I sat down, then I had a better solution than I had before. And therefore, you always want to test out things, but figure out and commit to always a better solution. And eventually, maybe you can even overcome even larger problems that you have within yourself. Because, again, it's a long process. But try and commit to it, because if you don't complete it, it will either maybe like leave you in a worse or different or maybe unenjoyable place. Like, it's very hard for me to say. I'm not a psychic, but you can probably understand that, like, committing to it and completing it entirely is going to be very crucial and important. So yeah, don't forget the goal And my little advice is that you need to try and have the general true end goal of how you need to agree with yourself. Because in the end of the day, these are more animalistic type of aspects of being a human being. And they want to pull you in directions that might be more unhealthy to you than they should be. But if they're truly good for you or not, you should be the one, the conscious you, the one that is you, the one that is typing, for example, who the hell knows, that should be the one that decides in general. So sit down and reason with yourself. Try and have the true, complete end goal being more agreeable, or rather like agree with your other self. If you somehow are able to get through a lot of the issues and you're able to end up at that point, and to me it feels like I am at that point, just about. I mean, I'm still gonna be human, I'm still gonna have flaws, but it feels like I'm pretty much there. Then you will end up becoming a way better version of you. You will have, you'll get to enjoy more of self-mastery than you've ever had before. And regardless of what issues you get to work through, they will allow you to improve and level up way more than other people have. So that's probably most I wanted to talk about in this video. It also should explain why I'm able to make these videos again and all that sort of stuff. I'll link most of the general Wikipedia articles and whatnot in the description. Again, those are just drafts, but I could seriously see myself in most of the things that were talked about. And yeah, it's heavy reading, relatively speaking. Again, I'm not a professional, so don't take my advice. If you find things to be very serious, try and seek a professional. But yeah, I'm just saying, it was incredibly interesting to me, and I'm so happy that I am where I am currently. So really, that's about it for this video. Yeah, have a nice bit. No, what was I gonna say? Yeah, this has been your Norwegian hardcore PC gamer, and do have a nice day.